everyone and anyone, no matter what you've done, no matter what sins you've committed, no matter what mistakes you've made, God still has love for you and he still desires to have a relationship with you. Right. That's not what I'm talking about when I say the fear of the Lord. So salvation's for everyone. Grace is a gift.
Right.
Anyone can receive that.
Okay.
But favor and calling and a high and significant and special and unique purpose, that's not necessarily for everyone. So grace is for everyone, but favor is selective. And the fear of the Lord is that God, because you've been making poor decisions and because you know better, but you still act differently, it's the fear that God will take his hand off you and say, no, you can't have that anymore.
Preach, Tyler, preach!
That is all about when we got if you have an event, a wedding, a birthday party, a baby shower, anything like that, you need anything installed, you know who to get at. Today we're gonna install a full wrap.
Hey, Prince, you going stupid.
Alright, we back on the Major Purpose Podcast today. Today about to be a good one. You know, I say that about every episode, but I mean it once again today. I got a friend in the building. Go ahead, introduce yourself, man.
My name is Charlie Hughes. I've known Brandon since the 8th grade. I work at a church called Church by the Glaze. I lead the young adult movement there for 18 to 30-year-olds called Rally. I preach. I just try to influence people for Jesus pretty much, and that's where I'm at in life right now.
That's what's up. What up, Charlie?
It's good to see you, bro.
How you been, bro? How your past week been?
It's been good. This past week I've been working, getting ready for next Friday. We have Rally next Friday, and that's about it, man. Just kind of stressing out, but it's a good pressure, you know what I mean? But definitely feeling the pressure.
So go ahead, what's Rally? You say you host rallies.
Yeah.
That sounds kind of...
that's a good question. So Rally, what it is, like I said, is for 18 to 30-year-olds. Mm-hmm. We're on social media, on YouTube, so check us out. Our handle is @Rally Nights. But the main thing we do is we do like this large monthly, I guess gathering is the best word I could use to describe it. We have anywhere from 300 to 400 young adults come out on a monthly basis. We meet on the second to last or last Friday of every month, just depending on what date works best. And it's a party. we have a service, but I don't even like to advertise it as a service because some people just have like kind of these preconceived notions about church. But there is worship, I preach, but there's always a creative element, whether that means we're doing some song you'll hear on the radio or on iTunes, and obviously we scrub-a-dub-dub, clean it up to make it appropriate for a church setting. Right. But we do that, and then we always have this giant after party afterwards with free food from food trucks, a DJ, or something else special going on. Like this next rally on this upcoming Friday is, well, I don't know when this is going to air, but this is March. This upcoming Friday, we're having like stage wrestling at the after party, where it's like, I think you were there last time we did it, maybe.
Yeah, with the like WWE stuff.
Exactly. We're like, it's a legit wrestling troupe, and it's not cheesy, it's not corny, it's not some fat old dudes like wrestling with each other in a ring. Like these guys are athletic, they do like double backflips off the high ropes. Like they're gonna perform at the after party, so that would be cool. And we're calling it the Rally Rumble. It's gonna be a whole thing.
Dang, that sounds like a lot. I ain't gonna lie to you. You said so 400 to 500 young adults.
Yeah, we've had as many as like, we average around 300. COVID kind of threw us for a loop, so we've been at like 300, but slowly but surely we're treading back towards averaging 400, and we've seen as many as like 500 people come out before.
Dang, and you gotta like run all that, like you figure out what's the event.
Yeah, I oversee it is the word I like to use, because I have a team, and really my team is so good. It's actually a team made up of like other young adults. Like I'm 22 years old, and most of the people are a little bit older than me, but not much older than me. Okay. They're in the age range between the ages of 18 and 30. I think the oldest dude on my team is 27. And the youngest person on my team is probably 19. Okay. And they're all around like 23, 24, and they oversee different areas like production and music and guest experience, which would pertain to the after party. And really, they're so good at their jobs, all I have to do is hold them accountable, and they just make me worry about putting together a sermon every month.
Wow.
And that's all I got to worry about, which I really appreciate that, because I couldn't figure out what they do. I could just hold them accountable and make sure, like, hey, you doing your work? Yeah, okay, cool, we're good.
Other than Riley, what's some other things you said you got your feet in?
Yeah, right now I'm still a student. I graduate in May, and I'm excited to graduate. But outside of that, I preach at other places, so I'll travel the country and I'll preach at different churches and different events, and I'll do a little bit. I don't even really like calling it this, because it's more just like hanging out with friends who are doing the same thing as me. But I'll like consult just a little bit, like give my advice. It's probably a better way to say it. Consult is too formal for what it is, but like I don't get paid for it. I'm just there like giving friends advice. I'm getting advice from them, so I'll do some of that too. But mainly the leading rally and preaching is what I do outside of school for the most part.
Dang, well, he 22. He got me feeling like I'm not on my. Dang, you got
That's
everything
definitely not
on
true.
your
He's
plate.
doing his thing too, bro.
Hey.
Major Purpose Podcast, but
you on your purpose, man. How you got all this on your plate? Now do me a favor.
yeah.
Take a step back from that.
Mm-hmm.
What got you to that point? Who's Charlie outside, like before everything today?
I feel like I've always been the same dude. Like, not necessarily always doing all this stuff, but I've always been about Jesus. I've always been about people.
Yeah.
So my life has always centered around those two things. Not always necessarily centered in a focus sense, but just centered, and that's what I've always loved and what I've always been about. Just trying to point people to Jesus and at the same time love people like Jesus would. Love them. So that's really just what my life has been. And just outside of Rally, like, I love going to the gym. I love hanging out with my friends. I love doing things that any other 22-year-old would love doing.
Right. Now you say that's been your whole life. Like, you feel like, so what was the upbringing? Talk about the upbringing. Like,
Yeah.
was it, because the way I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, you got a great purpose. Like, what you're doing, this affects a lot of people. I'm trying to see is like, is that something that's taught in the household, or is that something that's innately in you? Like, so what's the upbringing like?
Great question. I think it's a bit of both. So my dad is the pastor of Church by the Glades. So there might be a little nepotism involved, but doesn't matter how you get there. It just matters that you get there and do the thing once you get there. So my dad is the pastor of Church by the Glades, and I love my dad. He's my hero. His name is David Hughes. He's given me every opportunity in the world, and they resource Rally, and they fund it. So they make that part of my job really easy. And it is serving the church. So it's not just like he's backing my brainchild or my dream. But I grew up in the household of a pastor, and my parents did a great job. And this is not every pastor kid's experience, but this was my experience.
I'm listening.
My parents did a great job making church something I could look forward to and love. So whenever I showed up to church, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I gotta be at church today. I don't want to be here. No, it was something I looked forward to. Like, they did a great job.
How do you think they did that?
Say what?
How do you think they did that?
Well, I'll tell you. So, like, anytime I could experience something fun at church, I got to experience that fun thing. Anytime I could be in a green room in the back hanging out, they let me go do that. Like, I was at church, but I wasn't always in a church service.
Okay. I feel you.
Because, like, as an elementary school student and middle school student, like, yeah, middle school I was more into it, but, like, as an elementary school kid, like, you don't want to be sitting in a church service all day. So, like, they let me have fun, and I probably caused chaos.
Was it Church by the Glades at that point, or was it?
It was
traditional.
It's always been the same style of church. We're very, like, I would describe this as engaging in the sense that, like, we're cutting edge, and we'll do, like, kind of like the creative things I explained at Rally. We do the same things on the weekend at Church by the Glades. So we've always been very creative, and we've always had a very contemporary style of doing church.
Right.
But we were at one point called Coral Baptist Church. No one knows us by that anymore. Now we're Church by the Glades. But we've always been like Church by the Glades, the way we move and operate.
Yeah. So then, but you said as a kid, you were looking forward to go to church. Like, you behind the scenes,
Yeah, definitely. They let me kind of run around, do whatever I wanted to, and, like, cause trouble, not in, like, a bad way, but just, like, being a kid and not knowing how to act always. But, yeah, so they made sure something I could enjoy, something I could look forward to, something I could have fun doing. And it's just a great way to grow up. I wouldn't ask to grow up any other way. Sorry, my keys just fell out of my pocket. But, yeah, so with growing up in a pastor's house and my dad being my hero and loving church so much, church was always something I naturally looked forward to and wanted to participate in. And around middle school age, probably around when we met, I was like, okay, yeah, like, well, as a kid, I was like, I want to be a pastor.
When did that hit you?
When I was, like, young, like, like an elementary school student. And I do think it was like a real call and a real sense of purpose. But at the same time, I feel like part of it was like, I just want to do whatever my dad does because I love my dad and he's my hero.
Right.
So in middle school, like I was trying to say, I was like, maybe I'll be a pastor after I play in the NFL and like chase this football dream. Like I believe like I'm gonna be a number 1 overall draft pick. I had my whole number 1 overall speech figured out. Like they don't even do a speech at the draft, but like I was gonna give a speech at the draft, and I was like, I'll play football and have a Hall of Fame career, and then I'll go do the pastor thing. Right. So I chased that from about like middle school to like early high school. Then around my sophomore, junior year, the football door closed because there's no way I was gonna end up being like a 5-star recruit, number 1 overall draft pick. And then naturally, it was just really God working things out without me even knowing or searching for it. The doors at my church and doing ministry kind of opened, and I was like, okay, these opportunities are here. I got nothing else going on. Let me hop in.
Oh, okay.
And that's where the call and the sense of purpose really became real for me, and I started to chase after that.
Okay. When that moment came to you, did you see a difference in your life? Like, was it the things you're focusing on were they different and stuff? Were behaviors different, habits and stuff like that? Or was it still the same Charlie, just now you in the church?
Probably the second, like the latter, like still the same Charlie, just now I'm in the church and now I'm like this. I just made the decision, like, because I'm not chasing this anymore. Mm-hmm. Now this is what I'm chasing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then so growing up, you want to be what was it like growing up in school, like knowing that you the pastor's kid and stuff? Cause like you said, like,
yeah,
I don't know, typically, you know, the stereotypical pastor's kid is like not what you think. And truthfully, I'm gonna keep it 100. You always was like the anomaly. Like you was always the out. This man was really a fastest kid, like, but not even in a bad way. Like it was just on some, I don't know. Like I'm gonna tell you a quick story. When I think of Charlie, I always think about this. I'm gonna keep it 100. Like back in school, like we in like, let's say maybe freshman year or something. Like, we in high school.
Yeah.
So the way the school was set up, it was a private school. So like, you know, it's majority white kids. And you got, at lunchtime, that's when you would really see it. Like lunchtime, for whatever reason, because the tables were always segregated. So it'd be like 2 tables full of black kids, like all the athletes. And then the rest of the lunchroom was just the white kids. And then, but I'm gonna keep it 100, I don't know, for whatever reason, Charlie would always come sit at the black table. Cause you know, we the football player, he would always, like, for the most part, he'd be at the black table. And then, like, this is what I think about Charlie. Like, so he'll come every day. He'll come to lunch and he'll sit at our table and like kicking and stuff. But then like your integrity was so like strong in high school, bro. Like once the conversation started going, you know, talking about some other stuff, you know, like I ain't gonna lie, out of nowhere, like Charlie would just get up and leave, but not even on no disrespectful stuff. It's not like he would get up and go to another. He would just get up and just be done with lunch. Like he wouldn't be like, "Hey, y'all, don't talk about that. Hey, stop cussing. Hey." Nah, he would just get up, and then the next day he'd come back to the table. It's not like it wasn't on no like I can't hang out with y'all.
No, definitely not.
But it's like, but being in high school, like, where did that sense of integrity come from? Like, do you like?
Yeah. So that wasn't as much as being a pastor kid thing as it was having a relationship with Jesus thing.
Dang.
I was more like so convicted in what I believed and what I stood for. Mm-hmm. That I was like, bro, I don't have time for this stuff. No disrespect and no hate. It's all love for you guys, but it's like I don't have time to waste. And part of that, and this is kind of a revelation I've had recently, but looking back, I've kind of always lived by, just to know what it was I was living by. Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard in scripture where it talks about the fear of the Lord?
Yeah.
So some people think operating or living with a fear of the Lord is being afraid that God is going to put his hand on you.
Right.
That's not what it is.
Talk to me.
A fear of the Lord is the fear that God will take his hand off you. Not that you lose your salvation or you lose God's love. Mm-hmm. Everyone and anyone, no matter what you've done, no matter what sins you've committed, no matter what mistakes you've made, God still has love for you and he still desires to have a relationship with you. Right. That's not what I'm talking about when I say the fear of the Lord. So salvation's for everyone. Grace is a gift.
Right.
Anyone can receive that.
Okay. But
favor and calling and a high and significant and special and unique purpose, that's not necessarily for everyone. So grace is for everyone, but favor is selective. And the fear of the Lord is that God, because you've been making poor decisions and because you know better, but you still act differently, it's the fear that God will take his hand off you and say, no, you can't have that anymore.
Preach, Tyler, preach, God.
So it's like, I was so afraid that God would not want to use me and would not want to do something special and significant in and through my life, I was like, I'm not risking that for anything.
Damn.
So you guys have fun with your conversation, and you guys do whatever you want to do, and I still love you,
Right.
but I'm not risking my purpose for the sake of this conversation.
Right.
So deuces.
Hey, that's real. Like, I don't even know the word. Like, I'm a lot for words. That's what's to think like that in high school. But now, okay, that could be the pros of it. Let's say going to the cons of it. Like, was there ever a sense of like questioning, like, is this my purpose? Like, or you ever had a sense of like, hey, I'm kind of lonely. Like, is there any feelings like that?
Yeah, I think there's always like am I just wasting my time right now? Like am I missing out on all this fun for nothing? And I think that's where you have to go back to like just scripture and what it says. Like, we serve a God of exceedingly abundantly, immeasurably more than all we could ever ask for, dream of, or imagine. And he's not going to undercut your expectations. He's going to exceed them. So I feel like that reminds me, like, no, the purpose that God has for my life really is special and it really is significant because scripture tells me so.
Right.
So that's where I can say, anytime I second guess, like, does God really have something special planned for my life? I'm like, nah, scripture says he does. But the loneliness thing you alluded to, that's definitely real.
Yeah.
Like, I'll tell people, like, I don't struggle with things that maybe other people struggle with in terms of hardship or suffering. At least not yet at this point in my life. Thank God.
Okay.
But I will say the hardship that I've experienced in my life is loneliness. Like, due to just trying to protect my purpose the best I can through my purity or my integrity, whatever the case may be, I've definitely experienced a sense of loneliness or a natural like seclusion or isolation. And it's not the sexy answer, and I don't have some end to this sentence that's gonna make anybody feel in the same way, really good about themselves. It's honestly just the price for your purpose that you have to pay and accept.
The price for your purpose, dang. God.
There's always gonna be a price to pay.
Right.
Whether that's working hard, college, getting an education, or being lonely due to living a life of purity, there's always going to be a purpose, and that's just something you have to accept.
Right. I ain't gonna lie, 'cause I was just about to ask you, like, do you think that's inevitable? Because let's say, even if it's not, let's say it's not even biblical. Like, let's say your purpose is whatever the case is. Because I always, talking to entrepreneurs, talking to everybody, we always have this conversation of like, yo, in order to chase your purpose, like, be whatever that is, like, is it inevitable that you're gonna naturally like separate, you feel me, like, and end up just, because at the end of the day, like, for instance, the podcast, like, ain't nobody editing this with me like 3 a.m. in the morning, you feel me? That's me by myself.
No
like,
doubt.
No matter what it is, it's like,
which keeps you from going out with your friends, which keeps you from being able to do this, do that, have that opportunity, have that relationship.
You got a girl, you got this.
If purpose was easy, everyone would live in it.
Dang, that's tough. Tough.
Let me reframe something you said, like, not talking about entrepreneurship or business or influencing in terms of social media. You said maybe that stuff isn't biblical. I would say it still is, because how are you going to take, if God is the God of everything, how are you going to take that thing away from God?
Okay.
So even if you're not necessarily called to vocational ministry or working within a church setting, I would still say that your purpose is very much so spiritual, and it's something you should involve God in, and it's something you should not say, all right, this belongs to me and this part of my life belongs to God. No, it all belongs to God. So if you want God to make your business successful, or make your podcast successful, or make your relationship successful, you better involve him in it, and not try to keep it from him.
Right. Dang, okay, I feel you. I feel that I do be separating that. That's crazy.
Everyone does.
Yeah. But talk to me, man. I'm really interested, man. You got me plugged in. What's, from a biblical standpoint, when you hear the word purpose, like, what do you think? Like, what comes to mind? Explain purpose to me. That's
a great question. So first of all, I think as Christians,
I didn't mean to cut you off. Can you cut the fan on? Cause I'm sweating like a motherfucker. Oh, my bad. Cut. Cut.
All good. So in a
wait, my fault. Cut it down just a little bit so it's not in the mic too much.
Yeah, no problem.
Like,
so then ask the question and I'll answer it.
Yeah, just look.
That would be a cleaner edit for you.
That's perfect. But wow, that's crazy, because now, from a biblical standpoint, when you hear the word purpose, explain that. What comes to your mind?
Yeah, so two-ish things. So one, I would say if you're watching this and you would say, yeah, I'm a believer in Jesus Christ, in a general sense, we all have the same purpose. It's in Matthew chapter 28. Is to go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, teaching them to obey all the things I command you. That is the purpose that Jesus gave all Christians from a mountaintop in Galilee. That's our purpose. It's stated clearly. Now, that's our general purpose. I think everyone also has a specific purpose. Right. That thing, that desire that God has placed within you to chase after.
Right.
And how you kind of decipher what that is one, it can't be something that's counter to what the Bible teaches. So it can't be something that allows you to indulge in sin.
Okay.
Two, it has to be something that's honoring to God. So,
Explain it.
So even if, like, for instance, let's go back to the business example. If God's placed a desire for you in business,
right,
and you chase after that, but you don't involve God in it, even though you're chasing the desire God has placed within you, I wouldn't say you're operating in your purpose.
Okay.
And I'm not saying, like, say you sell water bottles, I'm not saying you to put Philippians chapter 4 verses 13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me on every water bottle. That's not what I'm saying, but you need to operate your business in a way that honors God. So whether that's just being upright about your financials, not embezzling from your business, or just doing what you can with excess funds to maybe help somebody else out or point someone in to Jesus the way you can. So you talked about me at school, like just trying to live in a way that honored God. Like if you just live in a way that does its best to honor God, people are going to take notice of that. Right. And I would say in itself, that's God honoring. Yeah. And that's something people are going to take notice of. Right. It's just little things. And little things go a long way. Like just being honest, just being upright, just doing what is right by what the Bible teaches. That's going to honor God. And you can integrate that in any realm, in any sphere of business or influencing or whatever the case may be.
All right. Okay, that's dope. Now with you and your specific purpose, you feel like you gotta you wrap your mind around it. Like at this point, if you could put in a sentence or something.
I hope I never wrap my mind around it.
Why is that?
I hope it keeps evolving.
It's going to naturally, but at this point in your life, do you feel like right now you have let's say,
at
22?
It's a great question.
Hold up. I gotta take a second to interrupt this episode. It's your boy Woe Status Walt. I'm here to tell you about the Woe Status Social Event Planner app. If you're looking for access to the hottest venues, if you're trying to host a party yourself, or you're trying to set up some arrangements for a special somebody, you can do it easily from the palm of your hand through the Woe Status app. Don't forget to download the Woe Status app or check us out at www.woestatus.com. You can even call us to make them special arrangements at 833-2GO-WOE. That's 833-246-9462. Now let's get back to the episode.
I think I'm at a good place right now.
Talk about it.
So I don't know the exact reference, but Scripture talks about be faithful with the little before God gives you much or gives you more. So I feel like right now I'm being just being faithful with the little, like before God gives you more. And that's not the Scripture word for word, right. But that's the principle behind it. And I feel like right now I'm doing a good job of being faithful with the opportunities and the people and the resources that God has given me. So with the opportunity to lead Rally, I feel like right now I'm doing a good job with that. You could always be doing a better job. I feel like I'm doing a good job. I feel like I'm making God proud because I'm working hard. I'm operating with purity. I'm doing all I can to write the best sermons and lead people in a way that always points to Jesus. Right. I've been blessed with I've gained a little bit of a social media following. Some of you might have way more than I do, but I have 11,000 followers on Instagram. I'm using that to post sermon clips and not just build my brand, but push the gospel forward. So I feel like with what God has given me right now, I'm doing a good job. Could always be doing better, but I feel like I'm doing a good job kind of where I'm at. Okay. And just like we were talking before we started recording, once I graduate, that's another thing. I feel like right now God has called me to be a student and get my education. It's not something I necessarily enjoy doing. I go to a great school. Just school's never been my favorite thing, but I feel like that's part of my purpose at the moment. So right now I'm keeping my head down. I'm getting ready to get my degree in May. So I feel like I'm checking off that box and honoring God. Just being obedient is what I'm trying to say. Because doing a good job. I mean, people measure that by different standards, but I feel like just doing your best to be obedient to what God has placed in front of you. I feel like I'm doing that right now, and I hope I continue to do that in the future.
All right, okay. Now with the preaching, you preach at Church by the Glades too. When did that start?
Another great question. So around the time football stopped, preaching started.
Okay.
And I didn't actually get my first opportunity to preach at Church by the Glades. I got my first opportunity to preach at a small church in the Sarasota, Florida area. And that church had like a youth group of like 90 people, which is a pretty good crowd, especially like for your first time, but it's not like the rooms I'm preaching to now.
Okay.
But it was a great opportunity for me at the time, and still would be. I would love to go back and preach there. But bro, that was like the worst sermon I ever preached in my entire life.
Yeah.
It was so...
Talk about it. So did you prepare for it?
It was so bad. I did prepare, but not as much as I should have. But I didn't know how I should prepare.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
sermon.
What's preparation? What's the typical preparation before preaching?
Yeah, so like, I'll tell you the story about this sermon first.
Okay.
This sermon, I tell people I studied for it like I was studying for a test. I was 16 years old. I was a student. So I studied for it like I was about to take a test on it. My dad, it's my first time preaching, so my dad was like, maybe don't write your own sermon. Use one of my old sermons and preach that. I was like, that's probably a good idea. I don't really know that much about the Bible at this point to like be developing my own content.
Right.
So I get the sermon of his, the notes from it. I read it over a few times, and I watch the sermon on YouTube. And if I would have took a test on that sermon, I would have got I would have got an A on that test.
Yeah.
But when you write a sermon, or really any type of speech, this translates to any type of public speaking or preparing a podcast, like you can't just know how to take the test on the sermon. You need to know how to write the sermon, like write the test itself. That's how well you need to know what you're about to tell people.
Right.
And I did not know what I was about to say that well. I would have gotten an A on the test, but I did not know how to write the test. So I got up on that stage in front of those 90 or so students, and just with the lights and the people and the pressure of the moment, I started to mumble and stumble over my words. My mouth got really dry.
Your dad's in the crowd?
My dad's in the crowd. The pastor of that church is in the crowd, who like would never show up to this youth ministry.
Like Hughes is coming in town.
Exactly. People who I knew from my church drove 2 hours to be there. All these people were there to support me. It was so kind of them. Yeah. And bro, I just fell flat on my face. I think they gave me like 20 minutes or 25 minutes to preach the sermon. I was about 10 or 15 minutes in. I lost my place in my notes, and I just closed out because I panicked. I just prayed and ended it. But the reason why that was such a great opportunity is because I probably learned more from that terrible experience than I've learned from any preaching experience since then.
What did you learn from? What's the biggest thing you took away from that?
I learned how to prepare. I was like, I can't just know how to take a test on this sermon. I need to know how to write the test.
Okay.
So from then on, my preparation completely changed. I was like, I'm going to know every single word, comma, semicolon, period, exclamation point, question mark that I'm writing down. Right. And I'm gonna have it memorized word for word, and that's kind of been my process ever since. The process looks different for everyone. Not everyone's quite that scripted. But I could pull up my phone and put on Google Docs right now and show you a sermon. It's like word for word, highlighted, and when I preach it, it's probably 90 to 95% like verbatim of what I write down.
Wow.
For like 35 minutes.
Okay.
And that's just the process I found comfort in personally. But it's about, so my process right now, and it needs to shorten because it's not sustainable long term when I'll start preaching weekly. Right now I preach once a month, and I'll probably do one thing outside of that at a different church or event. But my process is like 2 weeks long. A week to write the sermon and a week to sit on it, meditate on it, pray on it, and just try to internalize it and get it in me. And that's like where I'm at right now. Like this week I wrote the sermon, and next week I'll sit on it and I'll preach it Friday.
So how long is like a 40-minute sermon, like in pages?
Let me pull it up. It's probably I average like, I'll show the camera like, cause like just that way you believe like what I'm actually like saying. Like you don't write down everything that you say.
Cause like you said, like I was gonna branch into that, how you said, with preaching or any type of public speaking. Cause like when I see preachers and stuff, like whether I'm at Church by the Glades or like I remember when you first started preaching, and I just know the art of public speaking is so like undervalued.
Bro,
and
hard.
Like it's hard, but then again it's so valuable. And I seen your growth in
Thanks, bro.
And just being up, like whether it's just public speaking in general. You feel me?
Comedians will talk about how like their profession's the one profession that everybody thinks they can do.
I was gonna tell you, like I low key when I'm up at Church by Glades and I see your dad, like to me, your dad, he's mastered it. He's up there.
Mm-hmm.
I look at it kind of like I said, like a stand-up comedian. Like, okay, it's a mic. He's on stage. He has to control the crowd a little. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not that it's like comedy, but it's like the same kind of.
It's because those that are good make it look easy.
Right. Exactly. But let me see.
So like this is doc, so you don't see pages, but like I'll scroll. This is the whole. I preached a sermon 2 weeks ago.
God. Oh.
And I have to learn that word for word, and that's probably about 8 pages.
Dang.
If you looked at it on a computer, and the pages probably average, speaking them out loud, like 3 to 5 minutes a piece.
So then, when you write the sermon, is it like, do you revise it? Because after I write 8 pages, I'm clocked out.
That's like what that second week is for in the process.
Okay.
Like I'm revising it and taking things out and putting things in.
But like we were saying, okay, taking it back to when you first started, let's say the art, just the public speaking. What's some 3 tips you could give to people out there who want to public speak, whether they want to preach, whether they want to do TED Talks?
Yeah.
What's the big advice you give them?
Yeah. So I would say prepare. And we've talked enough about that to kind of just let that word stand on its own. You got to prepare. You got to do your research. Don't just go up there and say whatever comes off the dome. Like, have something prepared. Take time preparing it. I'll leave that at that. 2, I'm going to separate this from preparation. When I say preparation, I'm talking about the content. Practice. If you are trying to get into public speaking, make sure you run through what you're going to say, whether it's in front of a mirror or to an empty room, at least 3 times, if not more. I still do that. My dad doesn't always do that still. I know sometimes he does. He'll run through his whole sermon on the stage by himself. Before I preach any new content, I'm preaching it to an empty room at full volume.
Yeah.
Probably 3 times at least, if not more.
Wow.
And the last thing I'll say, and this is advice that a preaching mentor gave to me, is don't be afraid to try out other people's voices. Because when you're new to public speaking or new to podcasting or new to whatever it is you want to do that requires you have a mic in your hand or a camera in front of you, you're not going to know your voice yet. And your public speaking voice is going to be different than just your speaking to a friend voice. It has to be.
Right.
Or else you're going to lose people that are not going to be engaged. So like for me, there's like different preachers I'll listen to. Like, I like how he said that. I like how he made that point. Let me try to make a point and deliver it like how he would.
Okay.
And then as you do that, certain voices are going to fit you better than others, and those are the voices you continue to lean into and continue to use. And
But then do you ever fall into like a habit of like, to where you're like trying to sound like, let's say
yeah, that's everybody's fear. They're like,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't want to sound like anybody else. I want to be me.
Yeah.
You're not good yet. You need to sound like somebody else.
Okay.
So naturally, as you continue to public speak, those training wheels are going to fall off and you're going to discover your own voice. But you're only going to discover your voice from trying other voices out.
Okay.
And there's no shame in your voice sounding like somebody else's voice. Like, let's talk about athletics. You look at basketball players, and people's pull up video of Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, and they're doing the exact same move the exact same way. Does anybody hate on Kobe Bryant's greatness because he looks just like Michael Jordan? Really? Some people maybe critique it, but I want to see you go out there and do that.
Right.
There's no shame in looking or sounding like somebody else, especially if that's someone that God's promoting, using, and giving influence to. I feel like we would be dumb not to try to do what they do the way they do it.
Right. That's dope. You mentioned something. You said you had a preaching mentor. How big is mentorship to fall into your purpose? I believe in mentorship. I feel like if you look, like you said, relating it to athletics, like any great had a mentor, every great had a coach. Like, how big is mentorship to you?
It's really big. I think it's something you gotta put yourself in position for. Like, a mentor's not gonna fall in your lap or come up to you and say, "Hey, I see potential in you. Let me mentor you." That might happen, but I think that conversation is also only going to happen if you put yourself in the right places and spaces. So it's something you got to go search for and have a formal conversation. Like, "Hey, will you be my mentor?" But like you're saying, I think it's very important because, like I said, starting anything new, you don't know what you're doing yet. You can't go into the assumptions with, "Oh, I watched 3 TED Talks and I listen to 2 podcasts and now I know everything about everything when it comes to entrepreneurship." Like, that's not going to be the case. You need somebody who's been around, done it for a while, who knows what they're talking about. Like when you look for a mentor, the two things you need to look for is someone who knows what they're talking about and has your best interests at heart. So if you're looking to succeed in business, go to a business owner who's been doing it for a while. Oh, not only do they need to know what they're talking about, but they need to have been where you want to one day be.
Right.
Because there's a lot of great, I don't know, this doesn't really translate as well, but people talk about how sometimes the best coaches like can't actually go out and execute. And I think that could be true, especially in athletics, but like I prefer a mentor who's been where I want to one day go.
They did it. So
they did it. That's ideal. It's not always possible, so maybe take that or leave that advice. But yeah, someone who loves you, has your best interests at heart, and who knows what they're talking about and has been where you want to one day go.
Yeah, okay. Who are some of them? How many mentors have you
I got a few, man. I mean,
are they for different things, or is all like theological?
The two main areas in my life that I really seek out mentorship is when it comes to preaching and leading, because that's what I'm doing. And my dad's my biggest mentor by far. I mean,
you lucked up.
I surely did. Yeah. Like it's like I said, like nepotism might not be fair, but whatever. Like I got no shame in my nepotism game. Like my dad is one of the greatest preachers and leaders that I know, and I'm blessed to have him in my life. And then some of his friends have been really good to me also, that also lead larger churches and just speak and preach at a really high level.
That's what's up. Now, what does it mean to be a leader?
What does it mean to be a leader? Because
like you said, you look up to a huge leader in the South Florida community. Being your dad and yourself, you are a huge leader with leading rally and things like that. So what does it mean to be a leader to you?
It's a great question, bro. The definition I hear a lot when it comes to leadership is influence.
Okay.
And I think that's true, but what good is your influence if you have no integrity?
Yeah. Okay.
So I think leadership looks like a commingling of those two. Like you gotta have influence. You have to have people that want to follow you, but I think people are gonna want to follow you only if you have integrity. Like,
but then there's some people follow weird stuff.
They do. But here's what I'm gonna say. I think personality and clout only gets you so far. Okay. Like even look at like, and I love rap, but even look at like rappers who have clout and who have talent, but they may not have the most integrity, and their circle is always changing. They keep the millions of followers they have, but that doesn't really require leadership.
Right.
The people they're leading are the people who are in their inner circle. Like there are very few like people in that realm who I see continuing to run with the same people. Like their circles are always changing. They got yes men around them. Right. Yes man, you don't have to lead yes men. They're gonna say yes to you no matter what, because they're just trying to ride your wave. They're not really trying to become a better person.
Okay.
So I'd say it's influence and integrity.
Okay. What's some ways you got your integrity to where it is? Like, is it something you gotta practice?
I also want to say, because I don't want it to come across on this podcast like, oh, look at me sitting on my like pedestal all holy. Like that's not the case. Like, I'm a messed up, broken sinner just like everybody else.
We're gonna put a halo on his head.
I don't deserve that. So I don't. But not only do I want to pretend that I'm perfect, because I'm not, and I'm well aware of that. But dude, it's a daily discipline, man. Like you gotta be intentional.
Okay.
You need to not necessarily have like a list written out that you like hang on your wall. If you want to do that, cool, that's great, do it. But just knowing what you stand for, and from there drawing lines in the sand and saying, this is a line I refuse to cross.
Right.
And that's just kind of what it's come from for me, and also that fear of the Lord thing I was talking about. Like just having such a concern for not wanting God to not want to use me or bless me. I just won't risk doing certain things.
Okay, I feel you. Now, on the Made Purpose podcast, we talked a lot of, like I said, it's mainly entrepreneurship based.
Yeah, I love that.
Being that your dad did start CBG.
He kind of like restarted it. It was the church was already around, but he renamed it, rebranded it.
Okay, what's some like entrepreneurship things that you've seen from your dad that you've implemented into your life, if any? Man,
my dad is one of the most kind leaders you will ever meet. I think a lot of people view great leaders and they view them as heavy-handed people, and some great leaders are heavy-handed. But my dad has been very successful by leading very kindly. Like, he's not quick to make assumptions. He's not quick to get angry. His default setting is to love people and be kind to them even when they like screw him over. Like, I've seen some people just totally like take a crap on his leadership, and he's like still like there, not necessarily give them opportunity like he once did, because leading kind is not necessarily leading dumb.
Yeah.
But he's always quick to be like, yo, you're forgiven.
But that's tough.
That's tough. But forgiveness doesn't always mean like forgiving doesn't mean forgetting.
Right, yeah, exactly.
So it's like, I can forgive you without letting you in this close again. And my dad just does such a good job at being kind to people. And from being kind to them, he gets buy-in from them. He's not kind in a manipulative way, knowing this. He's just sincerely a kind person. Yeah. And from that, I've seen him just get buy-in with his team and with his staff in a way I've never seen before. Like, they're not just working for him because he signs their paychecks. He's working for them because they believe in his mission. They believe in the calling of Church by the Glades. And they honestly love working for him.
Right. That's dope. Now with church, like, when we talk about church, I always feel like when churches bring up money and stuff, it's always like kind of taboo. But like, being that we're young men, like, we gotta survive and stuff. Like, how's the way that do you get paid for preaching? Like, as if you want to become a preacher, like, you get paid for it. Do you get paid for each event? Is it like how does that work? Let's say if you want to be a preacher, you want to walk in God's purpose and stuff like that, but you also gotta eat. Like, how's the way that you get like monetized?
I mean, most preachers don't.
Dang, really?
Yeah, I mean, that's why a lot of guys are bivocational.
What does that mean?
That means you preach and you do something else on the side.
Okay.
Like preaching is like your passion and your purpose and your calling, but it's not always necessarily the job that makes you money. I'm blessed that is my situation.
Right. Okay.
Because just our church is large enough and people are generous enough to where we can have an employed church staff.
Right.
But for a lot of people, that's not why they preach. And honestly, it should never be why they preach.
Yeah, okay.
That's not why I preach. That's not why my dad preaches.
Right.
Like, I mean, the money's great. Like, we need the money to survive. But, like, if making money is your reason for preaching, like, bro, there are, like, way more lucrative ways to sometimes be miserable. Like preaching is like hard. It requires hard work, bro. It's a lot of headaches. We talk about the loneliness. It's a lot of heartache. Like, if you're looking to make money, like, preaching's not the way to go about. Like, listen to Major Purpose Podcast. Learn a thing or two about entrepreneurship. Like, there's way better ways to go about that. And if like you're looking to make a career out of preaching in the sense like you want to be employed by a church, I don't think that's necessarily as long as it's not your main reason, I don't think that's a bad thing to try to make your career financially.
Right.
And with that, be faithful where you are in terms of like, make sure you are serving at a church now. Don't be like totally uninvolved from a church in the sense like you're not even volunteering, you're not even willing to hold a door, you're not even willing to clean up trash in between the seats, in between services. Like, you better be serving where you are now.
Right.
And then when an opportunity comes this way, make the most of it.
Right. Okay.
But outside of that, like,
it's not like just
preaching should not be. Preaching is not about the money.
Okay.
It's not. It's about God using you and using you to help others. Okay. If your reason to preach is anything but that, if it's to make money, that's funny. If it's to gain an influence, there are easier ways or way more sexy to do that. Like, bro, if you're in the wrong business if you're trying to make money preaching.
For sure. You ever did public speaking gigs that wasn't biblical based, or you just strictly?
I've not. I'm trying to think if I've ever been asked to.
Would you?
Yeah, I would. The content would be harder for me to come up with just because I've never done anything like that before.
Okay.
Because all my stuff is centered around scripture, like, and I think honestly, like, most, not all, but a lot of the good leadership stuff out there, is principles that are influenced by scripture at the very least. Even if the person like relaying the content doesn't realize that their content is scripturally based, it is.
Right. So you would like, would you time like if you had to do a TED talk,
I would do it, bro. I'd be down. Ted, call me. I'm there.
Yeah, because public speaking, we were talking about the money. That's a lucrative business. Like, you can.
For some people, that's a small crop of people, bro.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The people that are like actually killing it, like a Tony Robbins.
Right.
Like,
E.T.
There's only one Tony Robbins out there. E.T. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even put him on Tony Robbins level. Yeah, he's doing his thing, but like the people that are really, really killing it, there's only a reason like 2 people have come to out of our minds right now.
Yeah, you're not lying. Yeah. Well, I mean, okay. Dang, you got me. You're not lying. Okay, being that now, I wouldn't say I struggle with this, but like you said, money shouldn't be the focus.
Yeah.
Money's not my focus, but it's up there. Like, for instance,
it has to be.
There's things I wouldn't do because it's not going to yield a profit. Like,
yeah.
But it's like, how do you, I feel like, truthfully, like, let's say if I was like, yo, Charlie, you should start a t-shirt brand.
Yeah.
I honestly feel like since if you don't focus on the money, like, the brand will really grow to where it's supposed to be, you know what I'm saying? But, like, how do you separate that, yo, I got to eat, and yo, like, this is my purpose, like.
Yeah, it's a great question. How do I reconcile needing to make a living and needing to live in my purpose? I'd say that you can do that by one, like I talked about. I think no matter what you're doing, you're going to have to start bivocationally. That's not just like a ministry thing. Like if your purpose or what you believe to be your purpose has nothing to do with what's currently making you money, don't completely stop what's making you money because you need to make a living.
Yeah.
So if that thing's really your purpose, then attack it on the side.
Right.
Like, or attack it as much as you can while you still being able to financially support yourself. And then I think maybe another way that you can kind of find a good middle ground between the two, or trying to find a way to monetize your purpose, is at a certain point, it's gonna sound brutal and cutthroat, but maybe asking yourself like, yo, is this really my purpose? Like if you're seeing like not just money, but you use the word profit, and that's a word I feel like I'm more wired to speak into. Like, profit isn't necessarily just like money, it's just kind of seeing success or fruit in whatever it is you're doing. If you're seeing no fruit where you are, I mean, there's always going to be times where like you're not seeing fruit, and that does not necessarily mean you're not operating in your purpose. But like, yo, if you've been going after something for 10 years now and you've not made a dime, I hate to break it to you, that might not be your purpose.
Right.
So sometimes you need to ask those hard questions like, yo, like, why aren't my t-shirts selling? Well, sorry, your t-shirts kind of suck. So maybe you're not the next Virgil Abloh or the next Jerry Lorenzo. Maybe like you should get a 9 to 5 and get back on your knees and start asking God like, yo, what is my purpose actually?
Right.
And I think as you going back to what I talked about, everyone having a general purpose and then specific purposes will arise or present themselves. As you operate in that general purpose of making disciples of all nations, I think your specific purpose will flow through that and present itself as you're faithful, accomplishing what you know to be true.
Right.
Like, I know I need to go out there and share my faith. So as I do that, that's funny. Like, people really seem to listen to me while I'm doing this or that. Well, this or that might be the thing specifically that God has called you to.
Damn. Okay. I feel you.
So that's how I would go about it. If it's not working, start asking new questions, and then start focusing on that general purpose that God has given everyone. And as you chase after that general purpose, see what starts working for you, and that thing that starts working for you, that might end up being your specific purpose. And then lean into that, and I don't think there's anything wrong with, as long as you're doing it with integrity, I don't think there's anything wrong with making money from whatever that thing is.
For sure. That's huge. I ain't go, bro, you're such a good speaker, cause like, because truthfully, like, even on a podcast, like, just knowing how to conversate, like, like, how does that, is that something you've learned over time, or is it a natural thing? Like, cause I could just sit here and you just go.
I appreciate you, man. I don't know. I feel like I've always been able to talk to people.
Yeah, some people can't, bro. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's not everyone's gifting. Like, So I feel like something one of my mentors told me. Go back to mentorship.
Let me hear it.
They like low key like dropped this like a sack full of bricks on me. Like, Charlie, your problem is, because I was asking him like, he always knows I'm gonna be good when they come in with like, your problem is.
With
like,
a finger like that.
What's next? It was actually over text, but I just imagine he like had his finger at me like this, a loving finger wave. I was going to preach somewhere and I had to have 3 different sermons ready. Like I wasn't preaching like one sermon 3 times. I was preaching 3 different sermons.
Dang.
While I was there. First time I was ever doing this, I was like, yo, how should I go about doing this? How should I prepare? Mm-hmm. He was like, your problem is you view a sermon as a product. Dang. A sermon is a relationship. Dang. So I think that translates to public speaking, and I think it translates to speaking to yourself.
Right.
And it translates to speaking to others.
Right.
The goal is not to sell somebody something.
Yeah.
The goal is not to get what you want from someone.
Right.
The goal is to develop a connection with someone. Is to have a relationship. Like in the hour or hour and a half I have on the Major Purpose podcast, how can I develop a connection with the person listening to this or watching this on the other side of their screen?
Right.
Like how can I have an authentic connection with Brandon in the hour I have with him? How can I give him all of who I am in a way that's not looking to get anything from him? And how can I just show him through my words and through my energy and through my focus and through my intentionality that I love him, and through that I can share something with him if the opportunity presents itself.
For sure. Hey, that's some real stuff. Like, dang, that's so real. I be saying, I ain't gonna lie, before episodes 2, like, I see it in myself where it's like, or Walt or anything, like, would be like, yo, you don't got no notes? Or when we first started, we were figuring it out.
Yeah.
Be like, yo, you don't got no notes for a person? It's like, I think I did notes one time, like I researched and did all that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, like when I write notes and do all that, it feels so like I'm trying to get something that I don't want. I just want a real conversation. Like you said, like it's not a product, it's a relationship. Like the Major Purpose podcast, like it's a genuine.
I think especially with a podcast, like all the really successful podcasts that you see, they're not focused on people putting them on. They're focused on putting people on. Yeah. Like, yo, this person I'm bringing on, they've got wisdom in this area or that area, so I'm going to ask questions and I'm going to prepare questions that get them to bring out their best content. Not because I'm looking for people to share this podcast as many times as possible.
Like I need
because exactly. But because I genuinely want the person on the other side of that screen to leave having learned something.
Right.
You're trying to put people on, not have people put you on.
Exactly. Hey, that's real. What else, other than what you said? So you got Rally on your plate, you got, Rally. Mm-hmm. Being that you're a leader or you oversee this team of people, like what's been a difficulty in that, like having a team and managing a team, like what's some of the hardships about that? Yeah,
I mean, I'm a young and really inexperienced leader. Like I've only been leading Rally since 2019, and a year of that was COVID. So kind of led during COVID, but you can only lead to a certain extent when you're not meeting in person. So one thing I've really had to learn as a young leader who's still getting his feet wet in leadership is I've got to learn what battles to fight and which to not. Like
talk about it.
Like, especially as a young leader, you want to come in and be like, yo, that's not right, that's not right, that's not right, that's not right, that's not right. Fix it.
For sure.
You don't have the relational and emotional equity with the people you're leading to act like that. Mm-hmm. And who are you to act like that anyways, bro? Your resume is this long. Like, you haven't changed the world or really accomplished anything yet. So you have to lead with humility, which is what I've had to learn. I've had to be humbled, experience failures, which I have with Rally and my personal leadership. So allowing those experiences not to make me bitter, but to make me humble. And through that, learn just what battles to fight. Like, every little issue cannot become priority number one. Like not letting things slide due to a lack of intentionality or a lack of care, but because you care so much about the people you're leading and not just getting something from them, you assess what you know needs to be assessed, because if I don't assess that, that's going to harm everything. Like, not everything's not going to harm everything, but there are some things that will harm everything. So those big things are things that you without a doubt have to address and have to fix as soon as possible. But anything other than that, ask yourself, like, is this really worth it? And if it passed the test that is that question, then deal with it. If not, wait for a time in your leadership journey where there's not as much going on. You can be like, you know what, we're experiencing good growth. We've had success over the last couple of months. Let's address some of these smaller issues.
Right.
So that's how I've gone about it, and it's been a headache, and it's been a frustration, and there's still things I want to change I haven't gotten around to.
Yeah.
But it's because I'm so focused on the bigger picture, I'm not going to let all these little weeds and these little details consume my attention, my energy, my focus, and my happiness, and really cause the people I'm leading to start hating me because I'm picking away at them at every little thing they do.
Right. Now, being preaching in the big church, how does it been? Like, do you remember the first time you was on the big stage?
Yeah, that's fun, bro.
How was
all my new content? Not that like I'm testing it on Rally, but just naturally, all my new content, I'm doing at Rally. And the first time I do a sermon, I'm always very nervous, and I hope I always stay nervous because
still
I think
today, like
yeah. The first time I put out new content and deliver a sermon for the first time, like I'm always nervous, and I want that to be the case because I feel like that means I understand the weight of what I'm doing. Like preaching is an honor. I'm doing it because God has given me the opportunity, and that's not something to take lightly. And I feel like my nerves are just a manifestation of understanding that.
Right.
But preaching on the big stage, I might get nervous the first service.
Yeah.
But after that, it's content I've already done before.
Oh, because it's like
it's proven. Okay. Yeah, like, and I'll never preach like a rally sermon that Friday and then do it that Saturday and Sunday on the weekend. Like, it's always months after.
Yeah.
So I've had time to sit on that content, do it other places. So by the time I come to Church by the Glaze and preach on the weekend to thousands of people,
sure.
It's like, I know this is going to work and this is going to be fun. So let's play with it and really enjoy it.
Okay, that's dope. Hey, so with being that you're a Hughes, you grew up a Hughes, like you ever felt that pressure of being like a Hughes? Like, did you ever see everything your dad has built and like just feel that pressure on you to where you kind of either got to maintain that status or get to that level?
Yeah, I mean, I never really felt that pressure.
Yeah.
I like the way you asked that question a lot. Like, have you ever felt the pressure of being a Hughes? I felt the pressure of being a Hughes, not the pressure of being Pastor David Hughes' son. Like I wasn't not wanting to act a fool because I was like, oh shoot, this is gonna ruin Church by the Glaze reputation and discredit my dad's ministry. Like, that was not the reason I wanted to come correct and act correct as a kid. The reason I wanted to act correct as a kid is because I loved, honored, and respected my parents.
Okay.
Like, that's the thing. Too many people get mixed up about pastors and pastors' kid. Pastors and pastors' kids are not different than any other person that walks through a church door.
Yeah.
Like, people talk about how pastors are called to a higher standard,
Right.
which they're called to live above reproach, which means you need to live in a way that people don't even have to question if you're living with integrity because you're just living that upright and that much in a way that overtly honors God. But we're not called to a different standard. We're called to the same standard as every Christian.
Yeah.
Like, love the Lord with your God with all your heart and love others as you love yourself and live with purity and be disciplined and everything else the Bible says. People feel like or act like pastors are called to do additional stuff. That's not the case. We're just called to be the example of the standard.
Right.
So I never really felt the pressure of being a pastor or a pastor's kid to act correct. I felt the pressure because I love my parents as people, not as pastors, but as people, and I don't want them to be embarrassed at their kids acting up.
Right.
So not really the pastor kid thing as much as just loving my parents and not wanting to disappoint them.
Okay. But they do. I feel you. I respect that. But respectfully, your dad has built Church by the Glaze.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a monumental thing. You know what I'm saying? What's why the way they market and everything? Like, is it like a specific way that? Because they're different from every other church. Like the marketing, everything. Like, where does that come from? Like,
so I think any entrepreneur or business person that's listening to this will get something from this.
Let me hear it.
I think this translates to business. My dad. Here we go. We can go back to the dad question. Like, what makes my dad a great leader?
Yeah.
Not only is he kind, but he's intentional, man. He's so freaking intentional. Here's another. He's the most self-aware leader I know. The man turns 60 next Thursday, and he doesn't look like, you say, wow, like you go to my church. My dad probably looks like he's in his late 40s. He looks, and he's shredded. He's in great shape. He turns 60 next Thursday. This man is a 60-year-old white dude, bro.
Yeah.
We live in South Florida.
Yeah.
There are not that many white people in South Florida. And I love that about South Florida. I love how diverse South Florida is ethnically, culturally, just different ages. Like there's not one community or people group that really overtakes the South Florida community more than another one.
For sure.
So with that, our services at Church by the Glades are about an hour long, not really any longer than that. And my dad's on that stage for 35 minutes.
Okay.
So that rest of the hour, our stage looks nothing like him. And that's intentional. That's not by accident.
Okay.
My dad's like, yo, I know I'm a 60-year-old white dude.
Right.
The rest of the stage needs to be Black, Hispanic,
Right.
Asian,
Right.
and young.
Yeah.
Because I want my church to represent my community.
Right.
And I don't want anybody to come in and be like, yo, why is this an all-white church? Like, do they only like white people here? Like, he's like, nah, this church is for all people, no matter what they've done, no matter what sins they've committed. There's no perfect people allowed at Church by the Glades because Jesus loves you. So we're going to make sure the rest of the church, we're not even going to say that explicitly or like make sure like we're shoving it in people's face. Like, look how like aware we are of like how our community is. Like, no, we're just going to like put in the work and make sure that people can tell like, no, we're for everyone.
Right.
And then here's the other thing I think business people will get something from. South Florida, Broward County, Dade County, and Palm Beach County. Shout out to Broward, the 954. They are somewhere around, this is like a true statistic. I'm not making this up. Like Miami Herald did an article on this years ago.
Yeah.
And the same is still true today. Broward County is 96% unchurched. And being church, being in that 4% that's left over, all it means is that you attend church 4 times a year. So you attend Easter, Christmas, a wedding, and a funeral.
Yeah.
And you are technically church.
Okay.
96% of our community is not that.
That's not going once a year at all?
Not going at least 4 times a year.
At least 4. Okay.
At least 4 times a year. So what that means is we're not like a Texas or an Oklahoma where people have like church hurt and like feel like betrayed by the church. Like that's not really the issue we're dealing with here. And people in South Florida don't even necessarily dislike church. Church is not even on their mind.
Yeah.
That's just not the culture of South Florida. So with that being said, we want to get their attention. So we do things that no other church does.
Right.
Like we do the creative elements where we might do a Beyonce song or a Kendrick Lamar song or a U2 song. And like I said, we scrub it, dub, clean it up, make it appropriate for a church setting.
Right.
But we do those things to one, get people in the door, but 2, to get somebody who's not a Christian and maybe there because their girlfriend dragged them there to go from this to
like, oh, that's my song. Like, yeah.
this. Like, yo, like I didn't know any of those worship songs, but
Yeah.
I knew that Kendrick Lamar song. And now like it gets a person who's feeling uncomfortable and hesitant to be there in the first place to pull up and like feel like, oh, I'm not totally out of place anymore. Like,
Right.
like I'm here now. Like people say like a man who's uncomfortable having a cup of coffee in his hand like does the same thing. Like it just gives him something to like hold on to and like feel comfortable and like not totally out of place because it's something familiar and something he knows. So that's something we're very intentional with is our presentation.
Yeah.
Putting it in the people's language.
Yeah.
My dad's very relevant in his preaching style, and I try to be as well, doing those songs, and then just as far as who we put on stage, making sure it represents our community.
For sure. That's dope. That's dope. Y'all doing a good job. I ain't
Thank you, bro.
That's real.
Thank you.
A sermon that I've held on to when I've attended Church by the Glades that's been real prominent in my life. There was a sermon, something about, I think when y'all had the big couch.
Okay.
And it was about being comfortable.
Yeah.
And then basically, I remember at the end of the sermon, Pastor Dave was like, you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And when I tell y'all, right, like, I got that written, like, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And it's like, I think it was Church by the Glades, but I think it was something like that.
I'm sure he said that at some point.
But anyways, like, how big is it, how important is it to you to be uncomfortable? Like you said, the way you prepare your sermons and stuff.
Yeah.
You were saying
how important is it being comfortable being
uncomfortable?
Yeah.
Because you said that the way you prepare your sermons right now, it's like more comfortable to you. But how important is it to step out of that?
Yeah. So I mean, I think growth is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So if you're comfortable, you're probably not growing. Like you gotta live in the tension of between where I am now and where I want to be constantly. Intentions that are comfortable, like you could talk about like weightlifting, something you and I both enjoy doing. Apparently, as you can see, look at this man's arms. Like the reason why like you're going through that fourth set and you're on rep 12 of 12 and you're like really hurting is because you're uncomfortable.
For sure.
But it's in that time under tension that you're growing the most. Like, time under tension is a bodybuilding principle that refers to the time a particular muscle is under strain, because that is what optimizes your muscle to have the most potential for growth. Like, if you're not under strain, if you're not experiencing discomfort, that means you're not putting yourself in a position to experience potential for growth. I think being uncomfortable, it means you're learning, whether that is from success or from failure.
Exactly.
And it's just that constant reminder, like, on where I need to be. It may not always be where you want to be because, like I said, it's uncomfortable.
Right.
But if it's doing you any good, it's letting you know you're in a place and you're in a space right now that in the long run, what you learn from it, the perseverance you develop in it, is going to cause you to grow and be ready for the next time you experience a difficulty or a challenge.
So true. That's so true. Where we at on time? 105? Alright, we go like 10 more minutes. What I got? You got anything you want to talk about specifically? What's been on your mind? As of recently?
On my mind?
Yeah.
Shoot, bro. I've just been, I don't know. Just doing whatever, man. Trying, like I said, just trying to be faithful with the little.
What's a typical week look like for you?
Typical week for me is pretty chill for the most part. I'm a very consistent person in the things that I do, not necessarily when I do them. So Church by the Glades is very loose on its office hours, especially for a ministry like Rally that only meets once a month. Like, there's no need for me to be in the office every day of a month. Like, it doesn't take an 8-hour workday to be for a once a month service.
Right.
So I'm still doing work and I'm putting in hours every week, but that doesn't require me necessarily be in the office. So I do most of my work from home.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm still in school, so I'm actually a part-time employee at Church by the Glades. So I'm not putting in 40 hours every week.
Right.
I will go full-time and start doing more stuff once I graduate. So school takes up a lot of my time.
Yeah.
It's taking a few hours every day. I'll spend a few hours every day on Rally, whether that's writing a sermon or going to a meeting or just making leadership decisions or checking clips that we're going to push on social or having a conversation with a volunteer. So I'm always doing something that pertains to work, and then I try to get in the gym every day and work out like 5 or 6 days a week. And in addition to that,
how big is that?
How big is that?
Yeah, especially for like the mental, all that.
Bro, it does that more than anything, man. Like,
Tell you, I be telling. Bro, we just had everybody we talk like.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, I'm in the gym for my. If you see me getting bigger, just know I got a lot of stuff on my plate.
Yeah, bro, that's real. That's very real. Like,
the bigger I am, the more stressed I am. God.
Yeah, bro, you must be under a lot of stress right now, Brandon.
Or I've been through.
Prayers up for Brandon, bro.
But yeah, how does that working out do for your mental?
Bro, working out is really everything for me. Like, that's probably too dramatic. It's not everything, but it's a big thing.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Like it's really like. I'm probably, like, my muscles do not show how much I'm in the gym. Like I'm in the gym every day.
But you're not eating?
Yeah, that's probably it, to be honest with you. I don't eat like I should. That's for another podcast. But yeah, I mean, I'm in there every day, and just the emotional health is it's such a product of being in the gym and being in God's Word, and it's just such a healthy space to just let off some steam, bro.
So I feel like that's like, if you don't know your purpose that you're looking for, I really, honestly, especially if you're a dude, I can't speak for females, but if you're a dude, like all my dogs and stuff, I'm like, yo, first thing first, I promise you, just start working out. I promise you go be in a better space. Like, you go.
Bro, you know what's crazy is, like, I'm sure this translates to, like, podcast ideas or business ideas. Like, I get my best sermon ideas sometimes in the gym.
Telling you.
Like, do a few sets on bench. I'm like, oh wait, that's kind of. Let me pull my phone and write that down. Like, that's kind of a good idea.
Right.
And also, another great thing about the gym. So I started working out freshman year. I'm in my senior year now, so I'm on like year 3.5, almost 4 of working out.
Okay.
I started working out because I get to school, and starting school is so weird because you have all this free time. Yeah, college. You have all this free time, but then at the same time you feel more overwhelmed than ever.
Yeah.
And I felt like such a loser my freshman year.
Why is that?
I was like, bro, I have all this free time, but yet I feel overwhelmed. And I know I'm not as overwhelmed as I feel like I am. So let me get in the gym, just do something about this free time I have. And maybe it will help me just blow off some steam as well.
For sure.
So that's why I started going to the gym, just to make myself feel less like a loser.
Yeah.
Just mentally. I didn't have really any body insecurities or anything like that. I was just like, bro, like I need to do something with this time.
Yeah.
And that's why I started working out. And when you make working out and exercise a priority, it requires you to structure the rest of your life to have that hour in your day, or an hour and a half, or however long, 45 minutes, however long you like to be in the gym. Like if I'm not like, yo, I gotta make sure I get this done, and that done, so that way I can get to the gym.
Right.
So it really requires a discipline just to get in there and a structure to your life, and it made me more efficient in other areas. In my studying, in my writing, in my leading. So I'm like, yo, I gotta have time to get in the gym, so we gotta make sure this stuff gets done too.
For sure, health is wealth, man. No joke.
Definitely.
Hey, shoot, Charlie. Hey, appreciate you for coming through. I haven't lied to you. You blew me away. I seen the potential. You feel me?
Thank you.
I'm like, he gonna be a preacher? I'm like, yeah, I guess. He's that. But you like really making your own path, and it's not just like you said, like pastors. You just Charlie Hughes doing your thing. I really like watching you walk in your purpose for real.
Back at you, bro. I appreciate you.
Let's see. On the podcast, we make predictions. So if you can, I want you to look into the camera, speak to the people 5 years from now, so we can look back and be like, yo, Charlie said it. Where's Charlie Hughes going to be? What's he going to be into?
I like this. I've never seen you guys do this.
Talk about it.
Gosh, I should have thought about this more. 5 years
He been watching y'all.
from now. So 5 years from now, I'll be 27.
Mm-hmm.
So in 5 years, here's a big one.
I mean,
In the next 5 years, I want to be married.
dang.
I know.
Whoa.
That's probably not a lot of people.
I think we need another hour.
I mean, I'm not dating anybody right now. Like, there's no like prospects like on the horizon, but hopefully in the next 5 years that changes.
Okay.
So I'd like to be married in 5 years.
We'll talk off camera.
Yeah, we can talk off camera. In addition to that, in the next 5 years, I would love, and if there's like a ministry person watching, might be like, it's not about the numbers. Look, like every number represents a person. I would love for Rally to be seeing 1,000 people a month, every single month.
Speak it.
Because every number represents a person,
For sure.
and every person is a life that's being changed.
For sure.
So I would love for 1,000 young adults, 1,000 18 to 30-year-olds to be at Rally every month. And I don't know what changes we're going to need to make, what new things we're going to start doing, but man, we're going to get it done, and we're going to see 1,000 people every month in the next 5 years at Rally. In addition to that, bro, I mean, those are really probably my big two. Let's get superficial for a moment. I want to bench 400 pounds in the next 5 years. Let's go. Just because Brandon's arms got me jealous.
Okay, then, about the will of God's go happen. Go ahead, plug your stuff, where they can find you at.
For sure, man. So you can follow me on Instagram at Charlie Hughes, Hughes with a Z, because someone took the regular username. And really, instead of following me, follow my young adult movement Rally at Rally Nights on Instagram and YouTube.
Okay, that's what's up. It's Brandon. You can catch me at Designed by Laurent. It's Major Purpose Podcast. We out, man. Appreciate you.